Self-punishment. We are so often our own worst enemy, locking ourselves into humiliating habits of self-punishment and abuse. A great principle of common sense is that if you try something that doesn't work for you, and you try it again and again and again, and it still doesn't work for you, then try something else. One way of defining a neurotic tape loop of thought and behavior is the tendency to do the same thing over and over while continuing to expect a different result than what you've been getting. Often we punish ourselves because we have unrealistic models of perfection and find ourselves lacking. Failing impossible tests, we then abuse ourselves with excess self-criticism, restrictions, or self-medicating indulgences. Excess asceticism and galling attempts at self-discipline often lead to their opposite, a self-destructive binge of some sort. Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it, and this is especially true for relationship history and histories of neurotic self-abuse. Don't do anything that compromises your inner dignity. Don't hold yourself up to standards and harsh self-criticism that you wouldn't impose on another person you cared about. So I've sometimes mentioned this to my very close friend, Justin Settlemyre, who's a great artist, because he's a relentless inner critic. But at the same time, the paradox is he would never talk to anybody else that way. He's one of the kindest, most considerate, empathic, and humble people I know. Not that he's anywhere near as humble as I am, of course. And I've sometimes wondered, but I mean, a lot of that is just, a benevolent essence. But I've sometimes wondered if maybe in the paradoxical way that development works, that the harsh inner critic that makes him a perfectionist with his art might also be the humbling of having that constantly diminishing him in his mind. Maybe that's why he's so humble too. Hard to say. But I think at this point, that's been accomplished, and it's probably time to put the inner critic in their place. And one way you can do that with an inner critic, I'm trying to remember now because I know I mentioned this to Justin recently, is to ask it to be an inner critic of itself. Like, okay, would you have me talk to others this way? So inner critic, you're so good at criticizing. How good are you at what you're doing? Like, is there any research that shows that constantly berating anyone makes them more effective or efficient? So get the inner critic to turn the lens on themselves and see if they can justify what they're doing. Well, how effective is your strategy and what you're saying, inner critic? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's time for you to work on yourself. So I do this in general with subpersonalities. Is like if you hear a voice in your head, unless it's like calm and compassionate, then be like, oh, that's interesting. You say I look like crap today? Well, come on, step into the spotlight. Who are you? And what would you have me do about that? Should I just get a lot of plastic surgery? Should I just never appear in public? What would you like me to do? Confront them and get them to own their own identity and their own point of view, and don't just let them passively keep looping in your mind. Take the occurrence of this card as permission to forgive yourself. Please don't punish yourself for having punished yourself. We've all done it, and it's easier to deal with than the fallout of punishing others. If you find that you are criticizing your past performance and saying, I should have done this, I should have done that, stop. Take a deep breath and stop shooting on yourself. Past is past. It does no good to punish yourself. Focus on being impeccable in the present.